What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Mile High Hockey. Mike and Will with you as always. Mike, it's a rare episode for us in the fact that the Avs haven't played since we last chatted on Tuesday. But at the same time, there is still plenty to talk about. And I want to kick things off with sort of where we ended on Tuesday. And I had brought up this notion that are the Avalanche bored? And you were proud of me because you said, listen, man, you're onto something here. An 82-game slog, when you just roll out of bed and make the playoffs every year, can get a little bit old. So curious if you have any more thoughts on that, but also sort of how do the Avs kick things into gear? 33 games into this season, 18-15-0. Yeah, you've got San Jose tonight. You've got Anaheim. That should help, but sort of a more big picture conversation that I want to have here with you today.
Yeah, I still think, and this is such a different season this year because much like if you were going to be taking a break for the Olympics, you got a number of Avalanche players who are going to be playing in this Four Nations face-off. And so there's the long season that's still ahead of you. Plus there's that anticipation / that's an added responsibility of playing in the Four Nation face-off, and you've got some key guys playing in that. So I think when you add it all together, I still feel like this is a season that right now I'm not yet in a position where I'm really ready to hold the Avs' feet to the fire because there's still so much left out there.
And just what we chatted about, that they will be judged by what happens in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was a Monday night in Vancouver that they lost 3-1. Mike, 3 months from now, if I ask you about that game or ask the average fan about that game, they're just not going to remember it, right? Like, all 82 don't stick in your head. Yeah, there's certain games that you're going to remember because they're memorable for whatever reason. But that being said, you're not going to hold their feet to the fire. Are we letting them off the hook a little bit? Is this team too talented? Because in my eyes, Mike, it just feels like they're going through the motions. And listen, I'm not saying go win a President's Trophy. And I understand the goaltending was bad and has now been addressed for a good majority of this season. But at some point, the hovering around 500 thing, when the calendar flips to 2025, that's just not going to cut it with me anymore.
No, there will come a point where it is go time. I thought that with the changes in goal that they might just sort of feel like, exhale and then go on a bit of a heater. I mean, that's still a possibility. But remember, we've even though we've seen some trades recently in the NHL, I still it's a trade deadline that doesn't come up until the first week of March.
It's a late one.
March. Think about that.
Too late.
For all the pushback I get about why don't you put more emphasis on the regular season. Think about what I just said there, okay? We've got the break in the winter for the Four Nation face-off. The trade deadline doesn't come up until like March 8th. March 8th, that's an eternity from now. So when you put all that into perspective, I guess cut the players like the Avalanche some slack with the idea that, hey, maybe it's just hard to get up for a Thursday night game in San Jose.
Right. Well, you mentioned trades. There has been an active market in the NHL the last few days. I think there's this notion that, they made their 2 goalie trades. They're done. But I do wonder, how much is Chris MacFarland and Joe Sakic going to continue to tweak this thing, especially because they're 18-15, right? Like, if they were sitting here, I don't know, 23-10, no one would be calling for any more trades. But I do think when they traded Bo and Byram last year, there's this notion, Mike, that there really is only 5, 6, maybe 7 guys on this team who are truly safe. I will be curious, especially because it seems like the hot stove's heating up, even though the deadline's not, like you said, for another 3 months. I will be curious if MacFarland and Sakic still have another move or two up their sleeve.
Well, to me, I look at like their top 8 at forwards, right? Their top 8 forwards to me are pretty well set, right? So their top 3 lines to me are pretty much set. So
provided they're healthy.
And
we'll get into that in a minute.
And we'll get into that in a minute.
Continue your thought.
But the other thing too is in terms of what's on the Avs wish list. What do you think they need? We're still waiting to see them get Josh Manson back. They could always, I think, add some more size on defense. But honestly, I don't look at this team and see a lot of giant holes.
It's not like second line center was last year.
Exactly. It's not like they got to go find themselves a Casey Mittelstadt.
Right.
They've got him now. So I think that with the trade deadline being out there so far into March, I think that there's a sense of, hey, we know what we have. It's a good group. We're going to be getting some guys back. let's let this thing play out with what we kind of had in mind when we put this team together in the offseason before we start going out and making trades.
Yeah, and trades are fun. You know, I think all sports fans like trades, right? Like, we all like playing fantasy GM in our leagues. We all like when real-life trades are made because we can break them down. Our basketball team may be on the verge of a big one, but that'll be a conversation on Mile High Hoops. Let's talk about the injuries because Jonathan Drouin, it feels like we get the update every day. Oh, he's skating over at Family Sports. Josh Manson, I think they were hoping to have him on this road trip. Probably not going to happen. Miles Wood still month to month. We're just hoping to see him before the end of the regular season. And then there's always that Gabe Landeskog mystery. But let's keep Gabe out of it. Out of Wood, Drouin, and Manson. Who's the one? In my eyes, it's Drouin because he was such a pleasant surprise last year. And the fact they re-signed him on what felt like a pretty cheap deal. Like, I just think we started this conversation on who's the spark or how do they get sparked. Maybe Jonathan Drouin can be the spark. Although, Mike, he's been snake bit by injuries this entire season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Manson. I think Manson's the most important guy for them to get back just because he's one of those real heart and soul, heartbeat type guys on this team. And for a team that at times still shows a tendency to get pushed around in their own end a little bit. I'm thinking about the first goal that they gave up the other night to Vancouver. That was the end of a long, sustained forecheck by Vancouver, and that's something that we've seen with Avalanche teams over the past few years. They can get caught up in matchups with teams that like to play a little heavy, lean on them a little bit, and get those sustained forechecks. And the Avs seem to struggle when they're pinned down like that. Getting a bigger guy like Manson, who can also pop in, the occasional big goal in the playoffs as well. To me, he's the biggest return.
I get it, and I'm not trying to dismiss Manson's game here, but I do feel like when Drouin can play on that first line with MacKinnon and Rantenen,
definite connection.
They have a connection, and it pushes everyone else down.
You're right.
To make the Nichushkins and the Lekkonens more deep on those lines.
Fair point.
I just think Drouin, and remember, he missed the Winnipeg series last year too. They survived it without him, and then he came back in the Dallas series and was actually fine in a series where the Avs just couldn't score. So we'll be watching those for you guys, especially Drouin and Manson closer. Wood still a ways out, and then Landeskog, who knows? All right, Mike, Alexander Georgiev tonight with the Sharks. We should get some news from San Jose, or it could come down to the wire. It could come down to who's leading the Sharks out on the ice 20 minutes. But let's just talk about the philosophical thing if Georgiev doesn't play tonight.
Georgie, come on. I'm talking to you right here. I'm talking to you right now. Don't be yeller. I don't want to see that yellow streak down the back of your hockey sweater. Okay? Get out there, go up against the team that kicked you to the curb, didn't want you anymore, and go show what you're made of. So I expect to see Georgiev between the pipes against the Avs tonight. But hey, 2 games for Georgiev. Stop me if you've seen this before, Avalanche fans. 2 games. He's given up about 3.5 goals per game with a save percentage around 87%. Similar numbers to what we saw here.
That's what San Jose signed up for, honestly, because we had seen it for 2 seasons. I do think this is a case, Mike, where the player needs to go to the coach and tell him it's important for him to play tonight. And honestly, we'll get some spin if he doesn't play, but it tells me a lot about what I already thought was a pretty soft mental makeup if Alexander Georgiev is sitting on the bench tonight, drinking out of his water bottle, watching the Avs play.
I guarantee you San Jose wants him to play too, because you would think if this guy's worth his salt as a competitor, he wants another crack at the team that traded him.
Who did we trade for?
If he doesn't want it,
right,
then it's like, what do we have here? So I would be stunned if Georgiev, if healthy, is not between the pipes.
Yeah, let's hope so. Mackenzie Blackwood, it sounds like, will be in the pipes for Colorado because guess what? That's what you do. You play your old team. Yep. Blackwood will be looking for some revenge against the Sharks. I don't think there was any hard feelings there like there were with Georgia and Colorado. I think it was just a goalie on a bad team going to a new team. All right, well, that'll do it for today's edition of Mile High Hockey. Let's hope the Avs can get hot. It'd be fun to come in and start talking about a big winning streak.
And guys, come on, you got to make me look good. I said 20-7 in these 27 games before the winter break here, and you're 1-2. Let's go. I only have so many losses to use here.
San Jose and Anaheim can cure all blues, Mike. They can cure all blues. We will catch you guys next time. Happy holidays and a very Merry Christmas from Mile High Hockey.